Hello, DevOps people. Happy Ada Loveless Day. Hey, how is everyone? Welcome to Monospace Mentor. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor, and today I'm going to do some work on our chef cookbook, Stormix. Hello, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome to the stack. Yeah, it's a nice Tuesday, and I'm aching because Mondays are dojo days, and so I've been doing karate again for 4 weeks now, and yeah, the day after training day is always leaves me wrecked, and which is a good thing. I'm so happy that I found another karate club that and I enjoy training so much, even though it's really painful because yeah, I had taken a break from karate for more than a decade, in which I, instead of practicing, the only thing that I did was aging. So, yeah, it'll be a lot of work until I'm back in shape and can do proper kicks again, but I'm enjoying every bit of it. Thank you, Stormix. I hope you're having a great Tuesday yourself. And so, yeah, that's one of my updates. What else is there? As I mentioned, it's Ada Lovelace Day today. Ada Lovelace, if you're not familiar, was basically the first female computer scientist. And today is a special day in her honor where women in tech, in science, are having the spotlight, and lots of wonderful stuff happening today. And what else? There was something else that I wanted to mention, but maybe I'll just need another sip of coffee to get me there. It'll get back to me. So what I'm going to do today is basically more or less a chore. As you might know, I have a company that does managed hosting for Drupal and WordPress, especially for websites that require high performance and high availability. And so we run hundreds of Linux servers, and we don't do that manually, especially given the fact that we are only a team of 2 in engineering, and that includes me. And so everything is automated, and we've been using Chef from the start in 2010. Back then it was Chef version 0.10. I still remember that, and of course now we are at Chef version 18, so every now and then we need to update our cookbooks to make sure that they still work with the latest version of Chef. And of course, operating systems don't stagnate either, so we also need to make sure that our cookbooks work with the latest version of Ubuntu LTS, which today is Ubuntu 24.04. And so the list of cookbooks that we need to upgrade to the latest version of Chef and upgrade to the latest version of Ubuntu LTS is pretty long and still necessary. So what I'm going to do today is tackle one cookbook after the other to make sure that our test suite gives us green light for using it with the latest software versions. It's part of DevOps work as well, I guess. It's not all glamorous and breaking new ground. Sometimes it's simply good maintenance, and so that's what I'm going to do today. For that, I need to log into Linear, where we manage our projects. And I'll have to check my email for the login code. Here we go. that was wrong. I got 2 login codes, strangely enough. Let's see if the second one works. Yep, that did the trick. And we'll have to switch to engineering projects. Let me get everything in place and then I'll share my screen. In progress. Cookbook modernization. Issues. All right. So here we are. We have a few central cookbooks that then have their own dependencies, and one of the very central cookbooks is a roles cookbook, where we have everything that is very fundamental to our infrastructure. You can probably tell by the names of the cookbook dependencies this rules FrySteel cookbook has. So it needs to take care of fundamental things around package management. That's the apt cookbook. Then there's the users cookbook that rolls out administrative user accounts. There's the security cookbook that does some basic security settings. Prometheus to get everything monitored. Chef, of course, to make sure our automation works properly and gets executed regularly, things like that. So that's what needs to get tackled. And I guess well, I should have assigned that to me anyway. And next I'll grab the admin tools cookbook, and let's see if we can get that updated quickly. Excuse me. So that's ENG 89. Linear has issue names that you can influence yourself, and in this case it's ENG-89, and by creating a branch with that name, the changes in that branch get associated with this issue automatically, which is pretty nice. So let's do exactly that. Let me switch to here, make sure that I have the latest changes. I do. Let's create a new branch, ENG-89. And I'll call it admin tools. I think that should still work if I add a suffix like that, just for clarity. I hope so. And we'll have to switch directories to the admin tools directory. And let's take a look at the cookbook itself. Alphabetically, it's high on the list here. And here we have the central metadata file for this cookbook. We are currently at version 4.0, which means since we are adding new support, well, we don't make any functional changes, I guess, so a patch level change should actually be sufficient. Let's see how that works. And chef version is higher than 13, so that's already in place, even if we want to test it with chef 18. All right, so what I have to do to make sure that things are going to work is to change the test setup, which is the kitchen.yaml file. Test kitchen is the tool that runs our test suites, and that's why we are using a configuration file named kitchen.yaml. And we have a template cookbook up here that already has all the necessary settings in place. So we need these provisioner settings and the verifier settings. I can actually just switch here. So I guess this deprecations as errors does make sense. Let's leave this in, actually. So I'll add that here. The verifier actually stayed the same, but I'll add that to our template cookbook as well. Because, yeah, we want to quickly react to deprecations so they don't bite us later. And so this does make sense. Okay, and then we need the updated list of supported platforms, which is the operating systems that we want to test with. And our set of platforms here is Ubuntu 16, 20 and 24. Most of our Linux servers run with Ubuntu 20.04 at the moment. We have a few legacy systems that still run Ubuntu 16, and we want to support Ubuntu 24. So that's why we have these three settings in here. And for Ubuntu 16, because it's a very legacy version, we need to test with Chef 13 as well. Not with the latest version, but with Chef 13. On these legacy systems, we won't update Chef anymore, and so we need to make sure our cookbooks work with this old version of Chef. And that's actually Chef, while the other later operating systems are going to run with Sync, which is the complete open source fork of Chef. So later or more up-to-date operating systems will run with Sync, and only our legacy systems are still running Chef. Because Chef 13 was not affected by the license change, we can still run this without a commercial license. All right, the test suites will stay as they are. Because those are the specific test setups for the particular cookbook. And that way, this test setup is now on the latest settings. Let's see the result. So we are going to run 3 operating systems times 2 test scenarios, one called default, one called remove packages. Not even sure if the remove packages is still necessary, but that's not in scope for today's change, so we'll leave it as it is. And next step is going to be to bump the cookbook version. Let me think. We're not going to make any functional changes. We are just going to add test support for 24.04. If this works, it'll just be a patch level change. So I can actually use rake bump patch here to get a new version, which is going to be 4.02. And for this new version, I'll also have to make a changelog entry. Let's add the date as well. We are October 8th. Speaking of date, now I remember what I wanted to announce as well. It's not only Ada Lovelace Day today, it's also the second Tuesday of the month, which means today is also Members Hangout Day for the Server Room, my community of practice. And if you'd like to take part in this community, go to theserverroom.sh. We are a friendly community, very inclusive and safe. And our goal is to support people who want to get into DevOps and SRE. And if you'd like to join our member hangouts and have many more perks, then check out theserverroom.sh and see if you'd like to join us. The barrier to entry is very low. I wonder why... yeah, I do know why the banner didn't appear. Give me a second to fix this. Because there should have been a graphic as well. But that's has changed last week, so let me see. That's going to be an event CTO TSR, yes. And that's that. Let me see if this works. Yep, here we go. Fixed it. Sorry for the chat spam. Okay, so back to where we are. That is added. Support for Ubuntu 24.04. Hopefully it'll stay just on this formal level. I might have to change something in the cookbook logic as well, which will make it a minor version bump, but we'll see about that. What I'd like to do also is I want these labels to all be, what are they, participles? And so I'd like to very much change fix with fixed. That did not work. What did I do wrong? Yeah. Here we go. Then we have breaking changed. New will be changed to added. That way we have another participle there. Participle. And I guess we'll leave the old changes as they are. No sense in updating those. I just want to set a precedent so people who add new changelog entries will use the proper labels here. Now, let's put this to the test. Hey, M. Valdez, welcome to the stack. Thanks for the hint. Yep, noticed it myself, but thank you. Keep adding these helpful comments. I do appreciate them. I guess we should be able to run a rake test. Now it's going to run the test. Oh, okay. There's even a chef test suite in between. Not sure what it does, but nice to see it. We use chef test very rarely. And now it's going to spin up virtual machines, one for each of the test suite components. So we have 6 components, 3 operating systems times 2 scenarios. And so it's going to spin up 6 Linux VMs, one after the other, to test if the cookbook works on that specific operating system. As you can see, we're starting with Ubuntu 16 and Chef 13. Which should work nicely because that's what we've been testing all along for many months, if not years. Yeah, years. And I'm only curious if the newly added Ubuntu 24 is going to work out of the box. So, Valdez, I am working through a list of cookbooks. that all need to be updated to Ubuntu 24.04, just to make sure the latest operating system that we are going to use is supported by the cookbook and works nicely. I'm at the first unfinished task here, the admin tools cookbook, which installs a bunch of, as the name says, admin tools. Stuff that we might need on a machine to debug things. Let's take a look at what it actually does. I'm going in the recipes here. As you can see, it installs tmux, mobile shell. What does log purge do? It makes sure that log files are cleaned up often enough, not only to save space, but also to comply with regulations like GDPR. So yeah, it's auxiliary stuff like this. That's why I don't expect these test runs to be huge issues, but I need to see them finish successfully either way. And since support is going to end for Ubuntu 20, which is our main operating system versions at the moment, it's going to end next year. It's a good idea to make sure that the subsequent version is going to be supported properly. Oh, you do? Yeah, I can relate, because Chef isn't the DevOps tool du jour anymore, I guess. But hey, we've been using Chef for 14 years now, since Chef 0.10. And while we are going to eventually switch to something Docker-based in our infrastructure, replacing an infrastructure comprised of hundreds of Linux servers with something Docker-based is a huge undertaking, and so I don't see Chef going away anytime soonish. And so yeah, we need to make sure that things will still run in 2026, I guess. I'm surprised to see these fail, and it must be something very specific. Yeah, and I can see what it is. It tries to install Chef 13 on the later versions, which it should not do. That is strange. Let me see. And here I got an alert. Let me quickly check what that is. That's something I need to look after later. It's not urgent, but there is a repeating pattern in the kind of alert that I just got. And so I need to make sure that's not something more serious than it looks like. So, Valdez, how do you find Chef? Is it something you'd like to get away from? Is it something you are comfortable using? What's your opinion on the tool? So, what's wrong with our test setup here? We did set the provisioner to use the sync repository for everything except for Ubuntu 16, where we override it with original chef. That way, it's supposed to use chef sync 18 for these, and it still tries to download chef though. That didn't happen with the previous cookbook. I wonder what's wrong here. Okay, so you're more geared towards Ansible now. Makes sense. I can really relate. There was a time when I considered switching from Chef to Ansible as well. But not only would it have been a huge undertaking, it also I know what's happening. It would also have been just a translation effort, because I guess we would have had to convert all of our cookbooks to Ansible modules, switching from Ruby to Python, and so the benefit wouldn't have justified the effort, since Chef is still around. So there wasn't any urgent need to get away from Chef. It felt outdated even a few years ago, compared to other infrastructure as code solutions. But on the other hand, it's what we call boring technology. So it leaves time for other stuff. Now, I can see what happens. We are actually trying to use the sync repository, but we're trying to install sync 13, which is not available. There is no version 13 for sync, because there's no need. As I said, the Chef 14 was before Chef Software changed the license to a commercial one. But I think, yeah, I overlooked this line here where we basically hardcode version 13 for everything. So let's take that off, and that now should make things work. I guess I'll simply run another rake test because yeah, it's more convenient, and it's a small cookbook. The test should run pretty quickly, even if I'm now going to rerun the Ubuntu 16 tests. The nice thing about these test runs is they leave you plenty of time to have coffee. Let's check that I have proper posture, because not only am I already aching because of karate training last night, I also tend to become pretty tense in the back anyway. Something that's odd today is that I locked down the wheels of my office chair, and so it doesn't move anymore. I wonder how that changes my posture and things. The reason why I locked them down isn't because of work, but because of playing Euro Truck Simulator 2, where pushing down the brakes in emergency situations always pushed me into the shelf behind me. So I hope that'll solve that problem. But I also don't want to lock and unlock those wheels every time. So let's see how working with a fixed position of my office chair is going to work out. One thing that it definitely makes harder, and now we are installing Sync 18.5. Now it's using the correct versions. One thing that the locked wheels make a little bit harder is even getting out of the chair, because it's pushed pretty near to the desk and it has armrests, so there's not much space to swivel and get out of the chair. But hey, I don't get in and out of this chair very often during the day anyway, which might be actually not too great a thing, but that's a different story. Yeah. Nice. Now let's see, 2404. It installs BC? That's amazing. I have no idea what led to us installing BC on our servers. I do understand packages like ETH-tool or HTOP or IFTOP, but BC seems to be strangely specific. Ooh, okay, look at that. So there is one failure that is probably based on different packaging in Ubuntu 24.04. And it's related to the dstat package. Interesting. We'll have to investigate what's up with dstat on Ubuntu 24. Can I already spin up the VM again? Let me see. Let's create a new pane here. Has the 2404 instance has already been torn down again to preserve memory. So I should be able to run exactly this one again. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh wait, it should work in parallel, shouldn't it? Okay, so default Ubuntu 24.04 was the only one that failed, which we have now converged down here. So if I do another test kitchen verify on this running instance, it'll fail for dstat. If I recall correctly, dstat is a nice little command line tool to get current operating system stats. And I wonder why that's missing. So let's get a shell in this VM. Let's get root and let's do apt. Wait. So the thing is, if I go up here, running the verify, the verification fails. Balthazar, welcome to the stack, and the Lemon joining us as well. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stack. Good to have you. Happy Thursday. Happy Ada Lovelace Day. Happy Monospace Mentor Community Member Hangout Day. What I just realized is this test is failing. However, there needs to be some related infrastructure code that tries to install dstat, and it does not fail. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even gotten to the verification phase here. So that is curious that the convergence phase is successful, even though during that converge phase, there must be an attempt of installing dstat, and it seems to work. And then the verification fails because there is no package dstat installed. That's curious. The Llama says, skipped one day there? Which one? Balthazar posted a link dstat real /dstat. Is that something new? Has that been replaced? Let's take a look. Has been archived. It's now, yeah, okay, it's not supported anymore. dstat development has been terminated. And there's dual. Okay. Well, that's sad. It's always a bummer when things like this happen. Due to actions taken by Red Hat to hijack the dstat name, further development of this project has ceased. The developer has thrown in the towel, and there's now a fork named dual. Okay. So I wonder what happened here. Apt. Is there a meta package dstat that...
It's a Unix system. I know this.
J. Jupiter, welcome to the stack. Thank you for the follow. Is there a meta package dstat that leads to dual being installed, but when we check for dstat, the package is actually not installed? Is it something like that? Let's see. apt surge dstat. There's sysstat and things like that, but no dstat. Okay. Now I'm curious how we did achieve dstat to be installed in the first place. So let me see. Here's a list of packages, and dstat is part of that. And we go through this list and install the package. And to be honest, this is not great because we are creating a package resource for each and every one of these packages, even though we can actually pass an array to the package resource, which would make this a one-step thing. Let me verify that. We'll fix that. That's going to be a refactoring, which is not going to do any make any functional change. The Lamen, which date did I miss? All or nothing? I'm not sure what you mean. It's just a more effective way of installing these packages. What we do here is we iterate over this list. It's basically an array, a list, and we call the package resource for each single one, which will create a list of package tasks, let's put it this way. It's going to be more efficient to call package with the array as an argument. The way how package will deal with this array, I'm not sure. I guess it's probable that it'll make this a one-off call to apt install as well. I don't see any difference, because if one of these packages fails to install, we'll still get a proper error message that tells us which package was the culprit. It's simply going to be more efficient in chef terms, because it's only going to be one resource that needs to be executed during the later stage of the whole installation or the whole chef process, instead of 15 or so. 17, I guess. But that's not the problem. What I'd like to explore first is apt install dstat does work. Aha. It automatically switches to PCP. Yeah, it's going to be a failure either way. If a package can't be installed that per cookbook or per recipe, in this case, needs to be installed, the convert run will fail. It can't go on from there. Now, let's find out what PCP is, right? PCP. Run a command or summarize an installation. Oh, is that the hijack? Did they use dstat for something completely different? But that's Red Hat, right? And we are running Ubuntu. Why does dstat divert to PCP in the first place? How strange. Okay. Anyway, let's find out if the Lamen, thank you for taking care of me. What is it called? Duel. Let's do apt search Duel, and in the meantime, I'll grab a little bit of coffee. Unfortunately, Duel is not available. Hijack? I'm not hijacking anything. It's just that dstat isn't available anymore in Ubuntu 24.04 because the developer threw in the towel after Red Hat apparently tried to hijack the dstat name. Not great, Red Hat, not great. So Duel is not available as a package here. I guess we'll have to throw out dstat for the time being. If it's not available, we might need to find something else. I'm not sure how much we rely on dstat on a day-to-day basis. Haven't used it in quite a while, to be honest. Let's take a short break and tackle the Lamans question. So is it normal to feel overwhelmed and get imposter syndrome when you are starting at a new job? The code base is huge. Yes. Okay, back to... No, just kidding. It's normal. It's normal. I mean, hey, everything that's unknown, that's unfamiliar, will be a challenge, regardless if it's a huge code base or if you get your first child or if you change professions or there are many things that I could come up with where the early days are always going to be a challenge. So don't feel bad about that. That's completely normal. Think about it this way. In a parallel world where you'd start a new job and immediately are familiar with the code base and feel at home with the whole application and environment, what would that mean for either the new environment or for yourself? It would probably mean you are a god among developers, or your whole application environment would have to be completely trivial. And what would they have hired you for then? So I guess it's pretty normal. It's nothing to be ashamed about. Is that how you're feeling at the moment? A little bit overwhelmed? I hope they are treating you gently over there and not putting a lot of pressure on you and asking why you are not yet familiar with all this stuff. Because that would be bad. That would be terrible. And it would be a huge red flag for me if someone would pressure a new team member getting familiar with stuff. At my company, we are trying to create success experiences for our new team members in a way where we'd like to have them make a commit and a merge request for something early on, so they see the whole process and they feel like they're contributing already in a very minor way, of course. But I would never think of pressuring someone in their first few weeks, because what we are doing is pretty specific. Even though Chef is, of course, nothing that's very specific to us. I mean, we talked about it earlier on the stream with M. Valdez, who is also using Chef. But the cookbooks that we have are, of course, very specific cookbooks, and I wouldn't expect anyone to be familiar with these cookbooks when they start out anyway. So but I'm happy to see that the Llama says the team is great and is still in training. 3 months. 3 months is a reasonable time span. Also, the manager told me that I would need up to 6 months a year to be good, or a year to be good at it. Oh wow, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's great. I'm curious what Balthasar meant with Chesterton's fence in this context. I am familiar with the thought experiment of Chesterton's fence. It basically means that you should assume that things are there for a reason. And the example that Chesterton used was, if you come to a field and there is a fence, it might not be wise opening that fence or hopping over that fence without being very careful, because that fence is probably there for a very specific reason. And if that reason is an angry bull, then you might end up in a pickle. So that's Chesterton's fence. Things are there usually for a reason, or because of technical debt, I guess. And so it makes sense to look for what that reason actually is. Juice mit Apfel drin. I'll just eat the pickle. What makes sense? I would love some pickles as well. Maybe inside a nice juicy burger? Yeah, I mean, that's of course the other scenario where something has just been kept around for no reason anymore and it's lost its purpose a while ago. Okay, what to do? I mean, there's always IO stat, I guess. Apt search IO stat. Yeah, a systat, I guess, systat. Okay. Cheers mit Apfel drin. Okay, so are you paying? Of course, I'm now tempted to replace dstat with systat because that's available and it's actually installed. Let me see if that is because we are installing it explicitly. Don't think so. Might get installed automatically. What I'm going to do is add systat just to make sure it's installed. We'll call these base tools. And instead of iterating over them, we'll simply do package base tools install. Should work the same way. And for backwards compatibility, we'll add base tools. We'll add dstat to those base tools if platform node platform version 2i is less than 24. And for readability's sake, because I was struggling to see if systat is part of the list or not, we'll sort this list. We'll keep that sorted. Oh, why not? Keep list sorted, please. Let's add the reason. Readability. It's nothing that's code related or efficiency related, just want to be able to quickly pinpoint a specific package. So this should work. Since we just introduced 24 where this breaks, we'll add dstat to the list, which will then not be sorted anymore, but since it's about readability, that's not a problem. And then we'll get all these tools installed. So let's see if this works as intended. Let's run test kitchen converge. What I'll have to do is remove the test for dstat because we can't rely on dstat being installed anymore. Let's see, Balthasar says, but rather than trying to feign confidence by making a slow of changes, gain actual confidence by learning the system and the history of why. Yeah. Yeah, don't just make changes willy-nilly just to show activity. That doesn't make any sense. Balthasar says, okay, Doc, have you in the car for a bit? Need to pick up coffee beans and brew. Oh, that's nice. You're taking me to the coffee shop. Or at least it's a supermarket. Okay, so this still works. As you can see, it creates a package resource now that has a list of packages, which is missing the dstat package actually, but it'll still work. And we'll make dstat an unofficial list member by actually removing its test. So that's that. And again, we'll sort this list so we don't get any duplicates in here by accident. This time we do need to iterate over the list because we need different package tests here. That's okay. Now I'm in a bit of a formal dilemma. Removing dstat support would be technically a breaking change. But my gut feeling is a breaking change, and therefore a major version bump is not justified in this case. How we deal with this is very much dependent on how we see the API of this cookbook. Is there a binding contract that this cookbook provides dstat? Is there maybe another cookbook that relies on dstat being installed and therefore it uses the admin tools cookbook as a dependency? And if we drop dstat from admin tools, that other cookbook will now break on Ubuntu 24. I'm 99% sure that that's not the case in our infrastructure. dstat is very much just an interactive application that we use on the command line, and if it's not available anymore, we'll have to work with that. So from a practical standpoint, it's just not a breaking change that would require updates to other cookbook dependencies because of the major version bump. On the other hand, you could make an argument, well, what if it is a major version jump? Why is that so complicated? Shouldn't you be able to work with a major version bump pretty efficiently? Which is a valid question. Hey Theo! Welcome to the stack, mate. Hope you're doing great. Good morning. Yeah. My pragmatic self is fighting the principled self. Principled self says you're removing functionality at least for people who want to use dstat on the command line. Therefore, you're making a breaking change, therefore you need to have a major version bump. The rules should be simple. If you remove functionality, it's a breaking change. End of story. It's a breaking change if it's not too bad, but only if it doesn't affect other cookbooks, which you will not be able to tell from the get-go, and so it might be a breaking change, but probably not. That's not how rules work, is it? I'm slowly talking myself into a breaking change here. Yeah. Yeah. I was just wondering where sysstat is in this list. But it wasn't in the list in the first place because it's the list of tests. So with dstat removed and sysstat added, the verification should now work. Yep. Which means the whole test suite is now going to work. But okay, we'll do the bump. B-rake bump. Major. Which also means we'll have to update our change log accordingly. Unfortunately, it's not 402, it's 500. Added support for Ubuntu 2404, but breaking removed installation of dstat. Unmaintained. Now, let's leave here and run our tests again. Oh, interesting. Food Critic has issues. use strings in preference to symbols to access node attributes. Okay, thank you. I was wondering about that when I made the change. That's in the recipe, the default recipe. So let's make that a string. Yeah, of course, node attributes should be strings anyway. These long test runs are what make Chef development a little bit tedious, because you have to wait for quite some time for them to finish, especially if you have to run them over and over. On the other hand, they're also what makes Chef development great, because having the verification that your recipes are doing what they're supposed to do, and that they are still doing what they're supposed to do even after you've made changes, that's definitely something that gives you a lot of peace of mind. I'm a huge proponent of test-driven development in general, and that also applies to infrastructure as code. It's just that infrastructure as code tests require infrastructure, i.e. virtual machines that get spun up and tested. So that's the price we have to pay. But I'm happy to pay it. I mean, as we can see, testing did uncover an issue that might have stumped someone when they first wanted to test dstat or use dstat on one of our servers, which on a new server running Ubuntu 24. And so now it's clearly documented that dstat is not available anymore. And yes, if systat isn't enough, then we'll have to find a replacement for dstat and install that. Fortunately, that will not be a breaking change anymore. That's just going to be a minor version bump, and therefore we won't have any internal dependencies that need to be upgraded. So we'll go through the process of enabling a major version jump only once. And the reason why I'm a little bit reluctant on doing major version jumps is that we pin version dependencies on the minor level. So bumping this cookbook to version 5 means that if we go to our original issue here, that the admin tools Freistyle making a major version bump means this needs to be reflected in the roles Freistyle cookbook, which has admin tools and all these other ones as dependencies. So if we go into roles Freistyle and its metadata file, you can see admin tools is pinned on a major version 4, with the minor version being variable and the patch version being variable as well implicitly. So a major version bump for admin tools Freistyle automatically leads to a version bump of roles Freistyle as well, which will also be a major version change because, of course, those breaking changes are more or less transitive. And so it creates a little bit of complication. Not too much, though. And as I said, if major version bumps are a pain, it raises the question, is there a way to deal with them in a different way that make that less of a pain? We shouldn't shy away from doing the right thing, I guess. So, here we go, running tests. Alex, welcome. Welcome to the stack. At this point, let me point out that this is an interactive show. Don't make this a 2 or 3 hour monologue on my side. If you'd like to share something, maybe you're excited about some new open source software that you've discovered, or you had a success, maybe you're struggling with something, feel free to, if you're comfortable with sharing it, pop into chat and let's talk. I always love if this is an interactive show. And if you'd like to continue chatting, then consider joining our Discord.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Well, Boomy, welcome to the stack. I appreciate your follow. Doing great, Boomy. Doing great. I hope you're having a great Tuesday yourself.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Thanks for the follow. I was about to say thanks for the follow, Apple Juice, but that's actually factually not correct, is it? Lovely Senpai says, I need some career advice. I'm a front-end engineer for professional years. Okay. After working in this industry, constant cycle of imposter syndrome and fatigue of learning new frameworks, I lost my passion for programming. Just want to do a simple 9 to 5. What other tech positions can I venture into? Whoa, okay. So, that's a more heavy one. Let me think. I can relate. I'll be honest. I can relate, especially in front end. There seems to be so much churn in terms of the framework of the day, things like that. Having to learn new stuff for the sake of it being new. That I can see this wearing people out. And if you are not someone who thrives on learning for learning's sake, who just wants to be productive and get their stuff done, I can see how this can lead to burnout. At least to the professional kind of burnout. Maybe not the mental health kind of burnout, but that might become a factor as well. so I can see what you want to do. I mean, help me understand you a little bit better. You say your passion for programming itself has gone. What would your 9 to 5 consist of then? What would you like to do? I think it's quite clear what you don't want to do. It's basically chasing the hype, if I get you. But what would you rather do? Instead of just learning the next framework du jour. Come in, do some simple SQL and do documentation and talk to people and call it a day. Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can get that in front-end engineering as well. I don't see a reason to switch to a different field altogether, maybe getting into back-end development or something like that, because back-end development can be the same, can be influenced by the same kind of hype cycles, maybe not as much as front-end. JavaScript and front-end engineering seems to be the most, let's put it that way, egregious area that does these things. But other areas can be the same if you're unlucky. So I would say simply changing to somewhere where hypes are more regarded with curiosity instead of pure eagerness to change would help you tremendously, wouldn't it? Simply going somewhere where people say, okay, let's keep up to date in terms of what's available, but there being new things available doesn't mean we have to switch to those immediately. Yeah, basically to switch to somewhere where people are a little bit more pragmatic and less hyped about new stuff would probably be a good change for you. So it's not, I don't think it's about the position or the field in which you are in. It's more about going somewhere where the pace of change isn't as frantic as you seem to be experiencing it. You're leaning towards business analyst or database developer. Yeah, those are, of course, completely different fields with very different skill sets as well. And I agree, yeah, I can't imagine database administration being, or database development being as subject to change as front-end development is. But yeah, it's a completely different field with different approaches and things like that. I do know database administration very well. I actually managed a team of DBAs back in the day, and so that would be a very sharp change in career for you. I'd rather simply look for a more chill place where they will still do front-end development, but as I said, with less frantic change of pace. Pace of change in this case. Okay, we're getting a few more questions here. Boomy asks, do you think that programming is now easier than before? What do you mean by before? I'm just curious. Let's look at your framing a little bit closer. I'm curious what you mean by before. What time span are we talking about? 5 years? 10 years? 30 years? Futtersnabel, welcome to the stack, mate. Always good to see the regulars. Lovely Senpai says, chill place, got it. Anyone coding in jQuery? Need a front-end dev. You're joking, but there are definitely places that use more pragmatic frameworks. There's a huge difference between, say, doing front-end development with React as compared to doing front-end development with Alpine, for example, or Stimulus or something like that. So that might actually be one of the places I'm thinking of where people are more attracted to Alpine because it gets the job done than programming in React because that's what Facebook does. Boomy says 20 years. Okay, so 2 decades. I've been programming for 4 decades now, so I will try to answer that question from my own perspective. Personabe says programming was easier 40 years ago. Okay. I don't want to push the semantics too far. I mean, we could still ask what does easier mean, but I'll cut to the chase. You can always follow up on my answer if you'd like, Elbumi. So I'll probably use a cliche here by saying things were simpler then. Simpler in the sense that there wasn't as much choice. We've just been talking about front-end development where you have a front-end framework for every day of the week. There weren't as many programming languages available, and for if you were in a specific field, there were even fewer languages available. Maybe there was just Fortran, maybe there was just COBOL, maybe there was just, say, Pascal or C, depending on where you worked. And there weren't as many front ends that you had to choose from in order to achieve what you wanted to do. So I'm pretty sure there was less analysis paralysis and more getting things done. I would say that that part was simpler. Something that I don't think was better was expectations, because if you were hired to do programming, getting stuff done in time was always the goal, wasn't it? And so regardless if you were programming in early versions of C++ or if you were programming in COBOL or something else, you were still expected to get things done by date X, and that might or might not have been realistic, just as it is today. So, yeah, I guess in that from that perspective, things were just as hard or easy as they are today. And Forsabel makes a good point in terms of availability of knowledge. We lacked tools like Stack Overflow. We lacked the wide community in the first place. So even BBSs in the 80s and 90s were a great step forward, where suddenly you could reach people that you didn't know that lived a huge distance away, and tap their knowledge, tap their experience. That was a great a great leap in the availability of skills and experience. You could download software from BBSs, or I guess you could start sharing libraries and things like that, or simply share code that you wrote and inspire other people, or get into discussions how to do things better. So the early incarnations of Stack Overflow, I guess. Yeah, before the time where we went online, things were definitely harder, because you might not even have known that a solution to your problem existed already, because it was developed on a different part of the world, and you didn't even learn about it from magazines and things like that. So yeah, I guess it's pretty nicely split between things might have been easier back then, things might just have been as hard as they are today, and some things definitely were harder than today. Pudasabel also said maybe 20 years ago it was harder as it got more complex, but we lacked some tools like Stack Overflow. Yeah, these two lines might have crossed around that time, where the complexity started going up rapidly, but the tools to achieve this complexity weren't as mature as they are today. First Novel also said, best time for programming Turbo Pascal. Yeah. As I've shared on this stream for quite a few times now, I'm rereading Byte magazines at the moment. I'm at the end of 1990, and seeing articles or adverts for Turbo Pascal 5, or even 6 wasn't around back then, but it was the time of Turbo Pascal 5.5. Definitely great times, yeah. Cheers with Apfeldrin says, programming magazines? Yeah. Programming magazines. Dr. Dobbs, Byte magazine, things like that. They were great. Actually, reading these magazines from the past made me resubscribe to a actual paper magazine. I can't push my chair, which is pretty confusing to me, because I just earlier locked the wheels of my chair. So yeah, I did actually resubscribe to a computer magazine, simply for the feeling of having paper in my hands and reading articles that I know were written by people that know their stuff. So nostalgia got me to do something that I didn't expect myself to do, which was getting paper-based media again. I haven't been buying books for quite a while, because I really appreciate having them in electronic form and not having to pack them into dozens of boxes when I eventually have to move. But the feeling of a paper magazine that comes into your house with new content, for some reason, that's something that I wanted to have. Okay. Keep the questions coming, folks. I do enjoy these chats. I hope I can help you a little bit. But everyone else is also, of course, invited to chime in and share their experience and their point of view. This is what makes this stream such a great experience, when people come together and share their experience. Which is also one of the reasons why I'm running the server room, my membership community for people who want to get into DevOps. If you are a software engineer and you want to get into DevOps or site reliability engineering, you want to extend your knowledge about system administration, things like that, that's what the server room is for. We like to help people get into these areas, share experience and knowledge, answer questions, and we also do great events, fun events like tonight, our monthly members hangout, where we simply hop on a video call and talk about everything that comes to mind. I already have my can of beer in the fridge for that tonight at 8 p.m. Ireland and UK time, so 7 p.m. Central European time. All the members of the Monospace Mentor community are invited to hop on this call and have a nice chat. And if you'd like to be part of this and many other stuff, consider joining us. The serverroom.sh will give you all the detailed information for that. Now, the test suite did succeed, which makes it ready to roll out. Let's see, we'll commit everything that's in here. So this is breaking, admin tools, Choresday, remove, dstart, add, Ubuntu 24. This change adds Ubuntu 24 support for. Unfortunately, dstat isn't available for this OS version anymore, so we had to drop its installation. Let's push this and let me grab this URL. Oh, no, that didn't work. Grab this URL. Let's see. So far, there's no indication it's related to GitLab, but once I create this merge request, I should be able to do that. So let's head the change log. And paste that here. Create the merge request. Now let's see if Linear still picks this up, even though I did add a suffix. Oh yeah, it did pick it up, because I can see from this automatic comment that it's now associated with Linear issue ENG 89. So yeah, now this will not trigger a test run, even though we could do this now. Maybe we want to revert this to test suite. What's up, GitLab? Give me my approval button. So yeah, this issue in Linear is now automatically related to the merge request. which also changed its status from backlog. I should have pushed it from backlog into in progress anyway, but it now skipped right into in review. And it also added to our current development cycle. I love these automations, but why doesn't the approval button not appear here? It says it's almost ready. Yeah, it just needs to be approved. Which I would do if you'd let me. You know? Get your ass in gear, GitLab. Anyway, that's that. We still have a change that we need to do. Yeah. Balthasar taking the opportunity to promote Git. Even if you're right, switching from GitLab to Git would very much delay this merge request as well. Let me think. Will I add this template change to the merge request? Yeah, I think I will. Just as a separate chore template. What did we do actually? What was that? Git df cached. Ah, yes, enable deprecations. Good. Chore template enable deprecation. Yes. I'll push that to the same merge request. It's really not worth it creating a separate one. Okay, here's the approval button now. Since it's a breaking change that won't be enabled automatically, we'll very much have to enable this deliberately manually. I'm going to approve that myself. It didn't include the latest changes though. Oh, now it says ready to merge. Okay, let's merge this. And my colleague did actually make a few changes to our CI process, so I'm curious if this will now be deployed successfully, which didn't work before for some strange reason, related to us switching from OG Chef to Sync, which is the open source fork of Chef. I hope the next cookbook in the list will go through a little bit faster. Oh, still failed. In this case... Ooh, okay. Git authentication broke. That's a new one. Did one of our token expire or something like that? Okay, I'll have to look after that at another time. Now that this has been merged though, I can release the cookbook manually. So let's switch to the master branch. Pull our merge, which means I can... what was it? 89? Yeah. Delete that branch locally. It has been deleted on the remote repository already. And since we are already in the admin tools FrySteel cookbook, I can run rake release, which will do all the necessary steps. Okay. Now, there are two possible steps that I could take at this point. I could update the dependency admin tools Freistyle in the roles cookbook and release that. But that would mean having to do the same for each one of these cookbooks here. Each of them would require another release of roles Freistyle, and that doesn't sound like something that I would like to do. I'd rather update all these cookbooks and finally then update roles Freistyle with all the dependencies. Because imagine each of these changes, each of these updates will result in a breaking change that would push the version of roles Freistyle 7 or 8 versions up. And if I could gather all these breaking changes into a single release of roles Freistyle, it would just be one step in the major version. So what I'm going to do is I will add another sub-issue here. Update dependencies. Let's be explicit. Update all dependencies in roles Freistyle. Pull in all the updated cookbooks. So that way we have a reminder that once all these are done, there is still the final step to update roles Freistyle itself. And I think that's a good way to do things. All right, so what's up next? Chef Freistyle. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Depending on what Chef Freistyle does, with us now switching to sync on the Ubuntu 24.04. Curious how this is going to turn out. This is issue ENG90. So let me create a new branch, ENG90 Chef. We'll switch to Chef Freistyle. And we'll close all files. And we'll open Chef Freistyle, where at the moment we say chef version greater than 13, Ubuntu greater than 16. Okay, nice. And we are in version 7.1 here. All righty. In terms of tests, this looks a little bit different than our template. But I see a new setting here, box auto update true. I think that makes sense having in our template as well. So let me steal this line and add it to the template. Wait, was that a driver? Okay. And then we'll also add the caching here. That's nice. And I think I can simply grab all these lines, not including the test suites themselves down there. Let me also grab the log level. So let's copy this again. And by replacing those test settings with our new ones, we should be able to run this. Again, we'll start with a patch level change here. Rake, bump, patch. There's always hope. So we've bumped to 714. We'll reflect that change in the change log. Added support for Ubuntu 24. And that should allow us to run rake test. Let me see what this cookbook actually does. Maybe it's not as problematic as it might seem. Client. Mostly installed the cron job, I guess. Yeah. And changes the permissions for the client log, mostly for monitoring, and it installs a specific script that integrates the chef run with our Prometheus monitoring. So yeah, that should work nicely. Famous last words, I know. Let's see. Here we are already in 2004. Did 1604 work? Yeah, successful. Nice. Background music, very cyberpunky. Speaking of cyberpunk, I did enjoy listening to a cyberpunk roleplay podcast lately. I was late to the game, and unfortunately the podcast went on hiatus since they finished their first season. But listening to Cyberpunk Tales from the Oasis, they did a great job in their first season in terms of production values and things like that, but turns out that they spent about, I think, 50 to 60,000 bucks in producing that podcast, and so since that was mostly funded by the person producing the podcast and also being the GM for the roleplay, they said, okay, that's not sustainable, and we need to find a different way of funding before we can go into a second season. And that second season, unfortunately, hasn't materialized yet. But yeah, I can highly, if you are into listening to people doing actual tabletop roleplay on a podcast that is very well produced with sound design and everything, I can highly recommend Cyberpunk Tales from the Oasis. And there is another ongoing podcast with the same attributes, which is called Fun City. The difference is Cyberpunk Tales from the Oasis uses Cyberpunk Red as their TTRPG basis, and Fun City is based on Shadowrun. So both are great and a great listen to if you like radio dramas combined with TTRPG live play. You should definitely check those two out. Questions to you. A question to you. If you would recommend one podcast, which one would it be? Hardcore History. Yeah, that's a good one. And you did a deep dive into Sixels the other day. Sixels, the image format for terminals. Interesting. What are you doing with Sixels nowadays? Sixels support, even though it's not something that I really need or rely on, was actually the reason why I'm now using WesTerm again. The terminal that you see here on the screen is WesTerm. And it does have Sixels support, which means it does actually allow you to display images in the terminal. So I think I have still the test file in my temp directory, don't I? There was something. Where is it? Snake.6. There you go. So I can actually cat a Sixels file and WesTerm displays it in the terminal itself. You wrote a converter from image to Sixel, so you can do animations by catting a Sixel file. Oh man. Bertha asks, quick Ruby question, since I have to sling a tiny amount of it right now. Assuming I have a string that I want to grab the front half of at a given delimiter, can I do a string split something 0? Yeah. That's definitely one way to do it. It would also be the first thing that I would come up with. I'm just now thinking about, is there a more efficient way to do this? Because, of course, if you have that delimiter in there a lot of times, and if you're talking about a very long string, Ruby will take a long time splitting your original string into pieces for you to discard everything but the first one. Which reminds me of what I often see people doing with our poor databases, where they select lots of records from the database only to then only take the first result. Even if they use the limit 1 statement, which actually tells the database that there will be only one record returned in the end. If it's a huge join, say combined with a sort, the database still has to do all the heavy lifting because it can't predict which record will be the first one after the whole joining and sorting and things like that. So it has to execute a potentially huge result set only to discard everything but the first record. So that's what the string split reminds me of that you proposed. Is there a better way? That's a good Ruby question. Even though you say you don't have that issue, you can guarantee the length of the string and the delimiter only has one occurrence. Okay, so I think in that case, string split with the delimiter and only taking the first, aka element number 0, does make sense. You can even be more idiomatic by instead using dot first instead of 0 in brackets. Actually, let's hop into IRB. So if you have a string that is, say, the date, 24/10/08, and I want just the year, I could do string split dash 0. That would give me the year. Instead of 0, I can be a little bit more idiomatic by saying dot first. That was so predictable. Usually choose the idiotic option instead of the idiomatic option. Yeah, that's a huge difference, I guess. You made me laugh. So, is there a better way of doing things? I don't think so, actually. Makes me think of the substring functions of old. Where you could say, okay, give me the first part until, or the part until the first dash sign. I'll be honest, I can't think of a more efficient way. That's also readable. We should also always take into account readability. And while there might be a magic incantation that's a little bit more efficient, sacrificing readability for efficiency should be justified by a need. And if you don't have that need to be so efficient, say in my example, for example here, this is a very short string, and even though Ruby will split this into 3 pieces and I'm only interested in the first one, that's not too bad, is it? And saying string split by dashes dot first, that's almost pure English that tells us, yeah, take this string, split it by dashes, and take the first part. That's exactly how I would explain what this algorithm is supposed to do. So readability is very high here, and that's why, and that's going to be my final verdict, this is my preferred solution for your problem. No! Boo-hoo! So 20 and 24 failed because because not only has the CA certificate the wrong checksum, it actually has no checksum, and the reason is with these OS versions we don't use Chef anymore, we use Sync, which has its certificate in under opt sync, of course. So yeah, these tests are bound to fail. However, this is a very specific test anyway. And the reason is, with Chef 13, which is many years old, we had to update the root certificate file. So specific HTTPS calls directly out of Chef recipes would not fail because of, for example, the root certificate change in Let's Encrypt a few years ago. this does not apply to more recent versions of Sync anyway, so we can more or less get rid of that check or test for later operating systems. I don't have to fix that test, I'll have to remove it. Bethesda says, I didn't really want to do substring, since while I can guarantee the length now, I'd like to be able to grab the front half, no matter what the length of the back half is. Yep. You're updating a homebrew cask. Nice. That will definitely benefit the community. Oh, so we are talking about versions here? Okay. I'm not sure about the structure of your versions. If we are talking about versions in your strings, there might be an alternative, because you can do version equals gem version new 1, 2, 3. Wait, that did not work. Is that not how it works? Wait. Gem version. There is no new. As next. Wait, what? How does gem version work? Let me see. Now I'm curious myself. Gem version. Create? Or new? Oh wait, why did I do all caps? How strange. Yeah, of course. What I'd like to do is, of course, gem version new 1, 2, 3. And I think there's something like major. What's the release? No, that's not it. Are there ways to... There's split segments. Are there ways to manipulate stuff? Let's see. Split segments is prefixed with an underscore, which I interpret as that's an internal. Okay, but there's next, isn't there? What happens if I... Wait, how does this work? This version class processes string versions into comparable values. Yeah, that's what I've been using it for. Because that makes versions comparable. So basically, gem version redefines the comparison operators. But it's just for comparison, right? So I can't actually do version bumps or something. Yeah, it's the comparison operator that gets redefined. Oh, there's bump. And it increases the minor version. Okay, version bump. Okay. Not sure why specifically the minor version. I guess, yeah. It's an interesting way to compare version strings, but it doesn't really help in your case. I wonder though if there is another gem that you could use, because that handling versions in Ruby should be a solved problem by now. I haven't researched that yet. Alright, let's take care of our unnecessary test here. Oh, look at that! Here we are actually checking if Chef is lower than the version that came with an updated root certificates file. And only then we do actually update the root certificates file with one of our own. And the tests should actually reflect that. Here's the SSL fix test. Interesting. How did this ever work? I guess that must have something to do with the kitchen file, where SSL fix excludes Ubuntu 22, which was referring to the platform 22 that we had in our list up here before I overwrote it. So we need to change that, because now we want to exclude Ubuntu 20 and 24. I don't think there's an includes, unfortunately. Otherwise, we could simply say, yeah, do this test suite only for Ubuntu 16, and if that platform ever goes away, hopefully soon, then this test suite will not be executed anymore at all. Unfortunately, that's not possible, if I remember that correctly, but wait a second, I might have test suites that depend on that? No, they don't, right? That got got deleted automatically. So if I list our test suites now, the SSL fix only gets executed for 16, which did work. Everything else seemed to have worked as well. Just to be sure, I'll run the whole test suite again. But that's it. So in this case, we'll get away with just bumping the patch version. Bethesda says, I don't want to bump the version to a new minor version, because that has different implications based on what I've read about homebrew versioning. Yeah, you need to definitely take into account how the project itself does versioning. Don't go around bumping versions willy-nilly. Sounds like a little bit of string munging does make sense in your case. And the split approach is still has my approval. I'm starting to feel that I've been sitting in this chair for too long. i.e. my butt starts hurting. Is starting to hurt. Yeah. Which is a good sign to wrap things up, because if this test, and when this test ends successfully, I can actually submit another merge request, get this out, and then we'll be done for this stream. I'll already start to scout for people who we could raid. And I already know whom we are going to raid. But first, let's finish some stuff here. So, folks, what are you up to now? Are you just about to start your workday? Or like me, already at the rear end of it? What's next for you? What's next for me? I think there's a webinar that might like to join later, and of course there's going to be the Monospace community hangout. If you didn't catch that earlier, I'm running a membership community called the Server Room, and tonight we're going to have our monthly members hangout, where we simply hop on a video call and talk whatever comes to mind. It's always great fun, completely random, and if you'd like to join us, consider becoming a member of the Server Room. That reminds me that I need to make a change. Little housekeeping done, and that's that. Awesome. Let's first commit the main change, which is in this directory, and that's a feature for Chef Freistyle. Add support for Ubuntu 24, and then we'll also commit the other change. Enable, what was it? Okay, so it's basically quality of life improvements here, automatic box updates for the VM image improvements. Okay, and with that, let's submit another merge request. You can simply recycle this tab. I need the change log. I don't think that worked. That should have worked on. Okay. Good. We'll call this feature Chef Choresday at Ubuntu 24 support. Let's add Moo again. Create merge request. Okay. I can approve this and merge this. Unfortunately, deployment will still not work for some reason. That we'll have to investigate, but I can pull these changes back from the repository, can get rid of ENG90, and can BE rake release this version of the cookbook. Alrighty. And with that, we're done for the stream. I'm going to raid a female streamer today, and that's going to be Shari Makes Art. So let's actually go and send her a happy Ada Lovelace Day. So just for you to copy that, happy Ada Lovelace Day. Let me copy that myself, actually. And that's it. I'll be back on Thursday. Thanks for stopping by and for a great chat. Hope you're having a great rest of your Tuesday. Starting the raid now. Counting down. Here we go. Until next time, take care.